Hello and welcome, dear viewers. For this lesson, we're doing famous places. And the famous place we're discussing is the Western Wall. A very popular and very controversial area. So let us wait for the students to join, and then we will begin. Hello to the viewer waiting so patiently. Unfortunately, so far no student has joined, so we're still waiting for them to join. I can't really start the class without them. However, if nobody joins in the next few minutes, I will go ahead with the class and make the most of it. Okay, so let's just wait a little bit longer. All right, so nobody has joined, unfortunately. So let us begin the lesson. And like I mentioned earlier, famous places is our topic. And the famous place is the Western Wall. All right, so I will just go ahead and read this brief article about the Western Wall, and then we will discuss it a little bit. Well, I will try to discuss it with myself. And all right, so let's zoom in a bit more. The Western Wall. It's one of the holiest sites in Judaism, and is found in the city of Jerusalem. It is also known as the Wailing Wall. Non-Jewish people began calling it this after watching Jewish people cry as they prayed at the wall. The wall is part of a large retaining wall that Herod the Great had built in biblical times. It was built to mark off and enlarge the area known as the Temple Mount, which contained the holiest temple of the Jewish people. In the year 70, the Romans destroyed the temple, but left parts of the wall standing. People began praying at the western section of the wall because it was the only reminder of their temple. It gradually became a holy site. Many people started leaving written prayers to God in the cracks of the wall, a custom that is still carried on today. Herod's wall was constructed with enormous stones, most weighing between 2 and 8 tons. A few weighed as much as 100 tons, and scientists still do not know how these rocks were moved to the site. Today's Western Wall is about 165 feet long and about 40 feet high. At some point, 4 or 5 rows of smaller stones were added on top of the 7 rows of original stones. In 1948, Jordan took control of the Western Wall and denied Jews access to it. Israel recaptured the area during the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. After the war, the Israelis constructed a large plaza in front of the wall that became a formal place of worship. Men and women have separate prayer areas. Boys from Israel and around the world often come to the plaza to celebrate their bar mitzvah. The Western Wall has also been a symbol of Jewish unity and survival since the 1800s. Today, the Israeli government often holds national events in the plaza. Okay, so for those viewers, that one viewer that's watching, and for those from the future who will be watching this lesson, I hope you understood what was just read. So what I'm going to do now is give you some statements, and I want you to think about these statements and tell me whether they are true or false. Okay, so the first statement: the Western Wall is a holy place in the Jewish religion. Is that true or false? It is true. The Western Wall is a holy place in the Jewish religion because you probably would have known that, and it actually says it at the very beginning of this text. It's one of the holiest sites in Judaism and is found in the holy city of Jerusalem. Okay, let's keep on going to the next one. Number 2. Jews have always controlled the Western Wall. Is it true or false? That is false, my dear viewers, because it's mentioned at the top, or maybe in the second paragraph. No, it's in the third. Well, actually, it's mentioned that the Romans destroyed the temple, so they had some control there. And then in 1948, Jordan took control of the Western Wall. So the Jews have not always controlled the Western Wall. Number 3. Jewish people changed the name of the Western Wall to the Wailing Wall. Really? No, that's false. The Jewish people did not change the name of the Western Wall to the Wailing Wall because it was non-Jewish people that called the Western Wall the Wailing Wall. And it says it in the first paragraph right here. Non-Jewish people began calling it the Wailing Wall after watching Jewish people cry as they prayed at the wall. All right, next one. Number 4. The Western Wall was built by the Romans. That is also false. It was not built by the Romans. They destroyed parts of it. And 5th, men and women prayed together at the Western Wall. No, that's also false because it clearly states that they have a separate area. Let's have a look. Why does it say that? Yeah, men and women have separate areas, prayer areas. Okay, so now let us move on to the vocabulary. Yeah. Let's do the vocabulary review. Okay, so what do we have to do here? Choose the word or words with the closest meaning to the underlined words in the following sentences. All right, so this is the sentence. Sentence number 1. The Western Wall is one of the holiest sites in Judaism. Holiest is underlined. So, which of the 3 answers below have the closest meaning to holiest? The Western Wall is one of the most religious sites in Judaism. So holiest means most religious. All right, number 2. The wall is part of a large retaining wall that was built in biblical times. Retaining, what does that mean? Religious, temple, or keeping something in place? It actually means keeping something in place. Yeah, retaining means to keep something in place. 3, The wall became a formal place of worship. Worship here means prayer. Definitely not fighting or celebration. It means prayer. 4. The Western Wall was built in biblical times. In biblical times means not in modern times, not recently, but a very long time ago. Biblical, referring to the Bible. We know that the Bible is very old. So, 5. Jordan took control of the Western Wall and denied Jews access to it. Denied Jews access to it. What does that mean? Refused to let them near it, shared it with them, or destroyed it. It's going to be A. Denied means refused. So denied or refused to let them near it. Okay. So now let's look at these 10 words below. The vocabulary that we heard in the text. So I want you to have a look at them and see if you can match these words on the left to the meanings, the correct meanings on the right. So the first one, wail. What does wail mean? Wail means to cry in a loud voice. Yeah, so it's a verb here. In the text we heard that the other name for the Western Wall is the Wailing Wall. Okay, because the Jewish people, they were crying, or they cry while praying. Second word is enlarge. To enlarge means to make bigger. Yeah, it's a verb as well. So, we need to enlarge this area. For example, this area needs to be enlarged. Yeah. Due to the overwhelming increase of population, for example. Number 3, destroy. To destroy means break to pieces. Okay. Another verb, to destroy. The Romans destroyed parts of the Western Wall, for example, like in that text it said. 4, reminder. What's a reminder? Yeah, it's a noun, and it's H, something that makes you think of something. So, for example, you have a doctor's appointment on Friday, so you want to remind yourself by setting a reminder on your smartphone. Yeah, so when it comes to Friday, an hour before the appointment, your alarm on your smartphone will go off. The reminder will go off. Okay? Number 5, site. A site is a place. The area, the site. You might say a construction site, for example. Yeah, maybe because the Western Wall was partly destroyed. Now the site of that area was under construction. So the people were not able to access that site anymore. 6, custom. Custom means something that is usually done, a tradition. So it's a custom. Every culture, has customs, certain, traditions that they do, or it's a custom to perhaps take off your shoes before entering the house in certain cultures or religions. It's a custom to take off the shoes before you enter the praying area. All right. Enormous, number 7. Enormous is huge or very large. Very good. So something that's enormous, huge, gigantic. An enormous rock, fell or rolled down the, or fell from the cliff, for example, onto the road. 8, recapture. Recapture, here is D, to take back or get control of again. So the Jews recaptured Jerusalem after the Arab-Israeli War in 1967, I believe it was. Okay, construct. Construct means to build. Yeah. This house was constructed by so-and-so. All right. 10, pray, is F, speak to God. To pray. Okay. Right, so, excuse me. Okay, so let's move on. All right, actually, there's not much to be done. Here we have some discussion questions on the right, but there are no students to discuss these questions with. Maybe something you might find interesting to think about. So the first discussion question would be, have you ever been to a world-famous holy site? If so, describe it. How would you describe it? Second discussion question would be, a bar mitzvah is a ceremony held when a Jewish boy reaches the age of 13, recognizing that he has reached the age of religious responsibility. What other ceremonies in other religions mark the passage from childhood to adulthood? If you have ever attended one of these, describe it. And thirdly, why do you think many Jewish boys travel from around the world to celebrate their bar mitzvah at the Western Wall? In other religions, do people travel to special places for special celebrations? Give examples. So, my dear students, my dear viewers, this is all for this brief lesson. I've done the best I could without any students in the class. So I hope those watching in the future could take something from this, some benefit. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great day.